Hello friends, welcome to my video. Today I'm going to be presenting a flight out of Rio de Janeiro, Santos Dumont Airport into São Paulo, Congonhas Airport. I'm going to be doing this flight on a 737-800 from Zibo. And I want to start showing off a little bit the beautiful landscape of Rio de Janeiro. My friends in Brazil will recognize this immediately. So we're going to be taking off out of Santos Dumont Airport. It's a very small regional airport in Rio. Out of Guanabara Bay. We are flying today with real-time weather. Today on February 20, 2021. So this is the 737-800 from Zibo. Just want to show off a little bit the details of the aircraft. It's a real piece of art in terms of design, in terms of accuracy, and is widely regarded as one of the best aircraft that you can fly on the flight simulator. Today we're going to be doing a dock and cold start, which is basically the aircraft totally turned off in the airport, and we're gonna start from scratch. As you can see, the cockpit is totally dark and off. The only thing that remains on is this small tablet on the left hand side of the cockpit. First thing that we do is turn on the battery. The battery has a very short capacity, but it's enough for us to kickstart the startup process. The flight to São Paulo is a very short flight. Just turning on the lights a little bit. Should be good. So on this tablet, we request to connect the GPU, which is the ground power unit. That you can see here. That's an external battery that feeds energy to the plane. Next thing we do is to check the amount of gasoline and the payload on the plane. Based on the flight plan, we know that I will need 8,900 pounds of jet fuel. So I need to add a little bit more here. And I'll include the weight of the passengers and cargo. Now I just turn on the ground power. Position lights steady. That's the light outside of the plane. And the logo lights as well. So people around the ground staff, they now became aware that this plane is being worked on. Emergency lights on, seat belts on, so the staff will be aware that we are engaging on the plane. Now I just turn on the AC inside the aircraft. Landing altitude in São Paulo is 2,600 feet, and the cruise altitude is flight level 240, which is already set up. Next thing we do, we align the IRS, which is basically the GPS on the antenna. It's giving me 6 minutes to be fully aligned with the satellites. So the plane pretty much need to recognize where they are located. This is good. Now we're gonna go for the FMC. The FMC, we can say, is pretty much the brain of the plane, where we input all the relevant data, including the location, and the route. We are flying out of Rio SPRJ into São Paulo. That's the route we're going to be using today, and this route, it's generated on the software called SimBrief and uploaded on the Navigraph that presents this on a chart. Here you can see the Navigraph out of Rio. So you need to respect the flight plan. Crossing in front of Rio, go to Angra, Ilha Grande, Paraty, and then towards São Paulo. Based on the conditions in São Paulo, we know we're going to be landing on the runway 35L, and I already have the approaching table in São Paulo on the runway 35L. All those frequencies and data points are included on the FMC, and we'll fly pretty much on the autopilot all the way. Okay. Flight level 240. This is presented by a math equation. You include the weight, conditions, and then the flight altitude is generated. The weather conditions on the cruise altitude is presented here on the top of climb, 165,026 P16. I'll include this data here. To make the small adjustments on the expected weather at the 24,000 feet altitude. We were taking off with flaps of number 5, and those speeds are the takeoff speeds. The 145 I'll need to include here. And we know, based on this chart, that the standard departure, the SID, the SID, is this one that brings me all the way to this point here on BAD. So that SID is called IH1C, transition on BAD. And I'll be taking off out of the runway 20L. Make sure that everything right on the whole flight details. We need to set up the arrival in São Paulo. 35L using the ILS. The transition ISO view. So now we have the full flight all the way to São Paulo, Congonhas. So the FMC is set up. Flight director on. As I turn on this, on the left hand side before, you see the MA, which is the master. So this one is pretty much the one controlling the plane. (200 degrees), which is the direction of the runway 20L out of Santos Dumont. Flight altitude is already 24,000, so we are good. The radius. This frequency is the landing frequency in São Paulo on the runway 20L, on the runway 34L. Good here. RTO, which is rejected takeoff. In case something goes wrong on the takeoff procedure, the plane apply the brakes, but Santos Dumont has a very short runway, so it's not really useful because there's not enough room. There's no room for mistakes basically in Santos Dumont. Now you need to turn on the APU, which is the auxiliary power unit. It's a larger engine that the plane has. So I can turn off the external battery. You see the EGT moving higher, exhaust gas temperature. once stabilized, I will be free to engage the APU generator. Okay. APU generator on. APU bleed. Turn on the generator on the switch. So now I can turn off the ground power. Disconnect the ground power outside. Fuel pumps, hydraulic pumps, window heat. So now I'm starting the piece of equipment that requires large amount of power, because now we are using being fed by the APU, the auxiliary power unit. Anti-collision lights on. Packs off. Now I'll turn off the AC because I will need full power to turn on the engine. Now I'm ready to push back.
Ground to cockpit, please show me where you want to go, sir.
The pushback will be placing the plane around here, which is good.
Ground to cockpit, tow is driving up.
So now wait for the truck to push back the plane, so I will be able to turn on the engines. We never turn on the engines when we are still on the gate. Now it's time to start the clock because we are officially leaving the gate. Let's see outside. What is this truck doing? The definition.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed, ready to connect.
And the amount of details on this simulation is really outstanding. I will be ready to turn on the engine.
Tow is now connected and bypass pin is secured. Please release parking brake.
Parking brake off.
Starting pushback now and you may start your engine.
Now we are talking. Starting to push us back. And now that's when we turn the engine. Gasoline. see here, starting to spin. Let's see if we can see the turbine. You can see on the right hand side of the plane starting to spin, and the other one is still waiting. Ground number 2. This number here will increase to about 1.7. And when it's ready, about 1.7, I release the fuel for the turbine. Ready? Now, that's the temperature of the turbine, so it's really picking up speed and gaining momentum.
Operation completed. Please set parking brake.
Parking brakes on.
Disconnecting tow. Please stand by.
See you later. APU off. Now we are using the power of the engine. You can turn off the APU. Okay, bye. Now turn on the AC again. Back. Now we can feel the breeze filling the cabin.
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on your left, sir. See you next time and have a safe flight.
Runway lights on, taxi lights on. Probe heat on. Now we are ready to taxi. Let's see from outside. Truck waiting for us. And we are ready to taxi. Brakes off. As I said, the takeoff procedure in Santos Dumont is very, very difficult because the runway is very short. Short on the runway. Now we set up the takeoff flap levels. We will be using number 5. Landing lights on. control. Steady, make sure it's steady. We will reset the flow of fuel. Okay. Then we're gonna set up the TCAS. Auto throttle on.
Approaching 20 right. Approaching runways. On runway 20 left.
Here we go. Full power, 98%.
80 knots.
1,000 feet remaining. 500
1,
remaining. Caution on taxiway. On taxiway.
Gear up.
$400. $1,000.
Autopilot. Will only engage when we have a certain amount of degrees in our direction, which is right now. We're going to be making a right-hand turn in the night of Rio de Janeiro. Everything looking good. We're going to have an external view momentarily. I'll reset the clock here. We are keeping 3,000 feet as we are respecting the limitations of the flight plan. We're going to go all the way to 24,000 feet, and we are currently at 230 knots. We are making a right turn. Let's see from outside. Taking off out of Santos Dumont, Rio de Janeiro to Congonhas. Not much to see from outside. So at 10,000 feet I will turn off taxi lights. The landing lights are already turned off. The taxi lights and the runway lights. The runway I can turn off now, but the taxi will be on until 10,000 feet. Logo lights are also turned off. And also at 10,000 feet I'm gonna move the barometer to standard, because right now it's 2992. and I'll have the standard pressure, barometric pressure above 10,000. We are good on speed. We are gaining altitude at 2,200 feet per minute. So we are all looking good. 94% almost power, so full power to gain altitude. You can see the external temperature is decreasing as we go higher. If you ask me how long it's going to take to reach the cruising altitude, I can go here, and I know that the top of climb will give me at 2209 Zulu in 44 nautic miles. 2209. We are currently 22 Zulu, so that's about 9 minutes from now. That's all it takes for the 737 to reach 24,000 feet. Hope you guys enjoy the flight. Hope you guys enjoy the simulation. And I appreciate the support. And see you guys on the next flight. Thanks for watching.